Okay. So the today's new unit is system analysis and design. The previous unit was relational database systems, and the system analysis and design is basically let us read its own description. Learners will be able to understand the system development life cycle. So basically, every system that has to be developed should undergo certain life cycle, the stages, certain role of system methodologies. The learners will introduce to different fact-finding and problem-solving techniques, and they will use these to analyze an exit system. They will recommend improvements and plan to implement these improvements for a client. So over here, probably at the level 3, they might, the domain, the boundary of the unit would be like understanding that how the systems are being developed and how they can be improved. But maybe on the higher level, in level 5, if the system analysis and design unit is being taught, then probably you will need to develop as well. So the first learning outcome is understanding system analysis and design. Yeah. So yeah. System development life cycle is one of the unit or topic where you will learn what are the system development life cycle methodologies. So probably this unit could be started with some of the basic definitions of the software engineering, but as this learning outcomes are given, we might start a few of the chapters of the topic of the course, like a jumping towards the direct system development life cycle. But I would advise you to go through the software engineering by Somerville. There's a very known a book. Let me show you here. Which one is it? Software Engineering by Somerville, and you will get a really good book. That's a really good book for software engineering, which covers all the aspects of software engineering, system analysis and design, system development, management, information systems, and everything will be there. So you can download all these slides. You can get a PDF book, or much more useful information. So system analysis and design is basically carried out through a system development life cycle. How it is done? It is done using the certain models like a waterfall model, a V-shape model, a spiral model. So we will be getting the introduction of these models, and then certain development methodologies are used, like a prototyping, Agile, SASD, DSDM, and then the system analysis includes the requirement elicitation, that how to get the requirements, stakeholder analysis, system design process itself. So we will be focusing on this learning outcome. And let me start from the PowerPoint. So you can listen me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, fine. So system development cycle, also referred to as the application development cycle, is a term used in systems engineering, information systems, software engineering to describe a process of planning, creating, testing, deploying an information system. So maybe once you want to create a system, you need to plan, you need to analyze, you need to design, implement, and check about the maintenance and testing. One of the model, the oldest model or the mostly used model, is a waterfall model. What happens? If you want to design a system, then initially you need to get the requirement definition, that what are the requirements. Then once you have got the requirements, then you come to system and software design. How basically you will design word is not the implementation, but the architectural design, that like what are the components of the software, how they will be working, how they will be interacting, in kind of representation in the form of some diagrams, data flow diagrams, any unified modeling diagrams or whatever. So until the diagrams analysis and design, you are not actually implementing but designing. Then you implement and do the unit testing. So for example, you implemented certain modules into the chunks of the software, and then next phase is integrating and system testing. Once you integrate the small modules, implemented through programming or whatever the way, then you try to integrate and do the system test, and then you put in operation and think about the maintenance. So waterfall model only allows you to go in a sequence of these steps that you should carry out, and there are certain definitions about this waterfall model, and there are also some disadvantages of this model, like it is difficult to accommodate in the change. As the name implies, that once the water has fallen, it cannot go reverse up on the hill. So whenever you are sure about the requirements, you go ahead to the system analysis and design, then implementation and testing. However, it's not always the same case that every time you have all these systematic way ready, then this model will fail. So some theoretical background over here, that it cannot accommodate the change, and when the requirements are well understood, it is only suitable, otherwise it is not good, right?
Yep.
Then next model is the V-shape model. In the V-shape model, what happens, once you start the requirement analysis, system design, architectural design, module design, then you parallelly keep on testing each module. Can you have a look that, for example, if you are doing the requirement analysis, then you check the acceptance of the requirements, then do the acceptance testing. Then system design, if you are designing the system, then you start to test the testing. So in a way, like, you should be kind of conscious that you should not leave any mistakes or something to be incomplete at every stage. Then another is the spiral model. Yeah, a spiral model is a kind of it is also called a risk driven process. So what happens, if you started here, like, you determine the objectives, alternatives and constraints and approaches that you will be taking, then you immediately go into the risk. That risk, and you analyze the risk, that are you going right, do you have sufficient resources, do you have funds, everything, yes, do you have, then come up with a prototype one. Yeah, prototype one, like give it a sample of whatever you have done.
Yeah.
Then go to the development or deliverable. Like deliverable, it's not only the software, but you created a requirement page. Then you started with a requirement page. You analyze the requirement. Okay, for example, if you wanted to get the requirement from a person, yeah, then are you sure that the person has given you the full requirement? If you say okay, yes, then try to create a requirement prototype one, then produce it, and then plan the next iteration, and then come up with the another phase. Then go to the risk analysis of the another phase, and then again come up with a prototype. So this is called the spiral model. It goes into the spiral, and every fourth corner, the risk analysis is driven. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a bit repetitive.
Sorry.
It's like a repetitive process.
Yeah, repetitive process. Yeah. So some of the like a waterfall model, like a V-shape model, a spiral model, So these are the certain models. When you will go to the software engineering book, you will get more approaches and classification of these things, that how they are done. So at the moment, going into these in detail is not the requirement, and obviously needs the time and concentration. But superficially, at the level of level 4, we are just trying to understand into the few definitions, so that we should be able to understand that what is the role of these uh, models. Yeah, we started from the need of the system analysis and design, and then we are here, and some of the models there. Then agile method, another term is the agile method, is a particular approach to project management that is utilized in the software development. This method assists the teams in responding to the unpredictability of constructing software. It uses incremental iterative work sequences that are commonly known as sprints. So again, for example, if you are considering these methods of software development, where you are checking the incremental work, you are checking the risk, so they come under the basically the agile method. Yeah, like agile approaches are different, like ASD, adaptive software development, agile modeling, agile unified process, crystal clear methods, discipline, and blah 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 blah. Now if you assume that normally we say, okay, we have to develop the software. Yeah, but it's not only to develop the software, but going through the methodology is important. Yeah, for example, if you talk about the YouTube website development. Yeah, YouTube website development is ever increasing the database of the videos. Yeah, so is it always the case that the way they created a number of servers to hold the videos, and whenever they wanted to increase the capacity, then do they need to stop everything? No. So in the world of analysis, or at the architectural level, a theoretical, there are a lot of concepts. So the special field that I told you, that object oriented analysis and design, is also one of the analysis techniques. They come under the software engineering. Yeah, so the detail can be studied from the software engineering book that I advised. Yeah, so obviously there's a very big topic, so we are just highlighting the importance and the core things available. Yeah, and structured system analysis and design method, there's another topic. It says it's a systems approach to analyze and design of the information systems. So especially when you are going to design the information systems, yeah, then you are going to use the structured system analysis and design method. If it was, for example, we used a waterfall model or a spiral model, possibly the system development could be any, not necessarily that it was the information system. It could be any website, it could be any entertainment, it could be any game. Yeah, but when it comes to the development of the information systems, then SASDM is also the approach, which is likely a waterfall model for analysis and design. Yeah, and it's basically the method that has been a trademark of Office of the Government Commerce, which is the United Kingdom's Treasury Department. Yeah, mostly used in the UK, and it's also going to be adopted in the Europe. So that's a method basically. How it works, there are certain steps, certain objectives. It improves the project management and control, make more effective use of experienced and inexperienced development staff, develop better quality systems. So going through this approach, SASDM possibly may be one of the approach to be adopted in the software industry within the UK. And for example, if you wanted to get the job, then you must have to be, expert, or, have a knowledge of SASDM. Okay, somebody is asking you in the interview that, do you know about the SASDM? You would say yes. Then possibly you could, spend, hundreds of hours of study and practice on the SASDM to get the position, and possibly you don't know about the spiral or other things, for example. So as I advised you earlier, so you need to have an specialized approach. Then, for example, SASDM has a stages like a 0. It's the feasibility is being checked at the stage 1, investigate current system. Another stage, business system options, requirements definitions, technical system options, logical design, and physical design. So every system, the structured method is based on certain steps. So whatever these steps they are, advising, they have some, concerns that why they are trying to adapt it. So SSDM, then another is the DSDM, Dynamic System Development Method. It's also an agile project, delivery framework, primarily used as a software development method that was used in 1994. So obviously that's also the history. They do like start from the feasibility, then foundation, exploration, engineering, and incremental development. They carry on like in a square. So this is also one of them. Now prototyping. Have you heard about the prototyping?
No, I haven't.
Prototype is a term like a prototype, like a sample, producing a sample. Prototyping model is a system development method in which a prototype or an early approximation of a final system or product is built. Yeah, early approximation of a final system or product is built, tested, and then reworked as necessary until an acceptable prototype is finally achieved, from which the complete system or product can now be developed. Like if you remember in the waterfall model, what happened? Like the requirements were taken, system analysis was done, and implementation was done, then integration and testing. But in the prototyping, what happens, if you have a look here, you started something and then you try to produce a prototype. Prototype means a sample of the work that has to be done. It's not necessary that at the end of the session, for example, you are given a 6 months, to develop the system. Perhaps you might only come in the 5th month that, okay, you have done a system and you want to show. But that's not going to work in the today's development methodologies. You are supposed to produce a prototype of, for example, whatever the work you have done. You would have to show to your team, your developers, or whatever whom they are concerned. Maybe the users. If the users are happy, then you should go ahead. Yeah. So prototyping is producing the sample of the whole or part of the function. There are several steps in prototyping model. The new system requirements are defined in as much as detail as possible. This usually involves the interviewing a number of users representing all departments or aspects of the existing system. A preliminary design is created for the new system. So as I discussed in verbally, at every stage you try to come up with a sample. That is the prototyping. Then requirement elicitation. When you are going to develop a system, a software, the requirements are very much important. For example, I was creating a small, the attendance system or the student record management system for a small academy. What happened? The principal of the college asked me to create a timesheet so that the students, they are attending a class or tuition on particular days. Yeah. Then he said, okay, the number should be I thought that it's very easy to say, okay, the 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, 4 hours in a a week, and multiply with an the tuition fees, and you get a invoice to be generated. What happened after 2-3 days work? The requirement was that, oh, this should not be the only hours, but this should be 60 minutes, 75 minutes, or 80 minutes. Yeah.
Yep.
The student can attend in minutes. So then I realized that it totally destroyed the logic of the application, because to deal with the hours, like a 1 hour, half an hour, and is easy. You just need to add and multiply it with some uh, uh, any amount. But when it comes to the minutes, then you really need to calculate, okay, when it says the 30 minutes, then you have to, when it says, for example, 15 minutes, 1 hour and 15 minutes, then you cannot say that 1.25 easily. The reason that the 60 cannot be accumulated as a in a percentage of 100. You need some calculation that when it is 60, it means it is 100%. When it is 30, it is 50%. So you understand that interpreting the timing in a half an hour or quarter an hour is not as it is 100. So requirement elicitation is most important, is the practice of collecting the requirements of a system, users, customers, and other stakeholders. The practice is also sometimes referred to as a requirement gathering. The term elicitation is used in books and research to raise the fact that good requirements cannot just be collected from the customer. Yeah. Obviously, he didn't know, for example, that, oh, that will be that much complicated, to implement the, in minutes. Yeah. So every time the requirements elicitation has a much more importance in the software engineering. Yeah. Another term is stakeholders. Stakeholders identify individuals or groups that are likely to affect or be affected by a proposed action, and sorting them according to their impact on the action and the impact the action they will have on them. This information is used to assess how the interest of those stakeholders should be addressed in a project plan, policy, program, and other actions. So, for example, if the small system was to be generated, then it was also important that who will be responsible. For example, students are the stakeholders, teachers are also the stakeholders. They will have their own role. Their the availability, their timings can affect the the system. And the parents, for example, the invoices are being sent to the parents, then that also concerns. So analysis of the stakeholders within the system development is important. Yeah. System design process itself is a process of defining the architecture, components, modules, interfaces, and data for a system to satisfy the specified requirements. System design could be seen as the application of the systems theory to product development. This is some overlap with the discipline of the system analysis, system architecture, and system engineering. So overall, the system design includes the architecture, components, modules, interfaces, individually. Yeah. So we are almost, done. We discussed, some core concepts like requirement elicitation, stakeholder, system design, and some, something about the SASD, which is mostly the, a method used for the information system development. Prototyping, like that you produce a small sample exam of the software. Agile is a methodology which wholly solely relies on the incremental and iterative, development, some system development, cycles like a waterfall, V-shape, spiral, and all those they have some advantages, disadvantage, the well known, and also some priorities given by the developers, that what they really want and why they want. So this is about the today's content. Let me stop the recording, and we can talk about any questions.
Okay.